18th for murder. I got charged when I was 18 in 2007. And you know, the way the case happened, somebody got killed in broad daylight across the street from a school. It was an 18-year-old kid. He got shot 9 times. So at that time, the media, the news, they happened to be riding by. So they caught it on camera, like after, like he was laying down on the floor, whatever happened. And so they caught it, they recorded it, like his body on the floor. He's like fighting for his life. So that was kind of like created like sensationalism about my case. I wasn't charged then or whatever. So they, you know, they had that in the media. They said they didn't have no suspects. And then like after like 8 months, I was already like a troubled youth. I was going in and out of DYS. I had probation. I ended up going to jail for violating probation. And so while I'm in jail for violating probation, I had a year to do a youthful offender sentence to do in a maximum security prison. I had to go to Walpole. So rather than just going to like a county jail, because the case I caught when I was a juvenile was an armed robbery, but they couldn't charge me as an adult, so they charged me as a youthful offender. So they committed me to DYS at 21. So I was committed to 21, but I had a youthful offender suspended sentence of a year and a day to go to MCI Walpole if I violate it. So if I violate whatever, then I have to go to a maximum security prison. So I ended up violating. I went, took my time, and while I'm doing my time, they end up doing an investigation, then my name came up somehow. So as my name came up, they came to see me. I'm in the hole. I'm in solitary confinement. As you see the guy who's in solitary confinement, I'm gonna see we bringing him to the shower. And that's how they really bring you. Like they cuff you up, shackle you, and then escort you to the shower in cuffs. So I was in the hole for like 3 months for a fight. And while I'm waiting in the hole, it's the longest I've been in the hole. So you only come out an hour a day. So imagine you seen that cell, so you're in the cell 23 hours a day. You only come out for an hour. You get no human contact. So to talk to people, you gotta yell. You gotta speak through little cracks, or they might have a window that open a little bit. It's dirty, roaches, everything. And so I'm young, so I'm trying to find a way to entertain myself. So I listen to the radio and stuff like that. So homicide comes to see me though, and they're like, yeah, your name's coming up. And so I'm like, I don't know why my name's coming up. So long story short, I ended up getting charged. Like they came back, they're like, hey, your name's coming up. They charged me, and so I'm fighting the case. So I went to trial 3 times. Like I'm kind of summarizing. It's a long story, but to try to summarize it. But I went to trial 3 times. So my first trial, I went to trial. They didn't have really no evidence. All they had was somebody saying I did something. But the people that was there that seen the person get killed, nobody puts me there. But there's a person that said they was in a car with me, and then I got out of the car, and me and my friend, we was talking about going to kill somebody. And then I got out the car, they dropped me off, and they went around the corner, and I went and did whatever happened to the kid that was laying on the ground. So, and then I came back to the car, and then we left. So in the story, when she's telling the story, she said, I took the hoodie off around the corner where the person got killed and threw it under the car. And keep in mind, like when the crime happened, it happened like 3 o'clock, so it's broad daylight. It's light out, kids is coming out, it's middle school, they're coming out. And there's a lot of people outside. So a lot of people seeing everything that's going on. And the police just happened to be around because probably like a half an hour before that, there was a call about somebody brandishing a gun in the park and there was little kids there. So they was already in the area. So when this supposedly happened or whatever, so I ended up getting charged with it. And then when you start looking at it, because this is what the media do, because everything is about just sensationalizing. Like it's about just getting attention. It's not really about getting to the truth of the facts. This guy, they just had the kid in there for 3 years and then they let him go. So that's basically what they did. They're like, all right, his name's coming up. He has a trouble past. He used to be a gang member. We believe he did it. So they kept going to this girl and pressuring her. And then she said, yeah, this guy did it, said a story. But when you look at the story and how she's telling how it happened, it never really happened. So they're like, yeah, this guy did this, shot the kid, came around the corner, threw the hoodie under the car, and the police was already in the area. So after it already happened, they came and canvassed the area. You know how they put crime scene tape? They want to look and collect evidence. So they did all of that, and they're looking for the hoodie and all that stuff. They never found none of that. So that's one of the things in my case. They never found no murder weapon. All the people that was actually on the scene that seen it happen never said I was there, never said I fit the description, but yet I got charged with it. And I went to trial 3 times. So my first trial I got a hung jury, so meaning like the jurors can't come to a unanimous decision. So that happens. And they initially charged me with intimidation witness. So at that time I was in a hole for 3 months. So when I knew homicide was coming to see me, like, I'm nervous. Like, I'm a young kid, I'm just like, damn, they come to see me. Like I could be in here for the rest of my life. So, I'm in the phone talking to my homeboy through the window, and he's like, yeah, man, you got to do something about it. So me not trusting the police and just cultural difference and just knowing how police are. So, I try to take matters in my own hand, kind of being stupid, not really thinking, just being emotional. So I make a call, like, yo, they saying, somebody saying I did something, the person they're trying to say, like, you got to take care of that. Basically, like, you got to kill this person. And but I didn't say it like that. But you know how, like, slang, figuratively speaking, I'm like, you gotta clean that up basically, if not, I'm gonna be gone or whatever. So they took that, like, yeah, this is an indication of guilt. Why would we say that this person never said that? But me, my perspective is like, I don't trust the police. Like, you know, they make up things, they fabricate things, and they got control of everything. So if you could, like, it's like being a journalist, right? Y'all write. So being a writer, you control the narrative and how people see it. So me knowing that and knowing how the police are and the system is, it's like I can't allow these people to just take my life and do whatever with it. So that happened, they had that evidence. So that was the only like incriminating evidence they had on me. Like, yeah, why would this person make this call and try to get this person killed if he didn't have nothing to do with it? So I got a hung jury. They charged me with intimidation of witness. I beat it. I got a not guilty for the intimidation of witness. They said I intimidated the witness, but I never did. I just made a call to my friend, the witness that they saying that was there and said I did something. Never was threatened, nothing like that. So the jury, they threw it out. And then I went to trial the second time. So when I went to trial the second time, I sat at trial. We're going, it's like a month-long trial this time. And the witness that's telling the story, that's saying I did something, while she's on the stand, and the prosecutor's talking to her, redirecting her, because my lawyer, because it's the only piece of evidence that they got. So they're like, this is because you don't have no DNA, you don't have no murder weapon, you don't have none of the people there saying that they seen me do anything. So they focus on this is the key witness. So they go, then my lawyer goes, so he's spending like, she's on the stand literally for like 3 days. Like, so she's getting tired being up there. So she's telling her story. When you listen to the story, it doesn't make no sense. Like, and so after my lawyer's done, he's like, yeah, so my lawyer, like he ended like, yeah, so you're saying this, but then you say this. Is it fair to say you leave things out and you just say what you want? And so the witness is like, yeah, I just say what I want. So the jury hears that, and the prosecutor doesn't like that, so he comes to try to rehabilitate the witness. That's what they call it, the redirect, to try to make the witness look like, you know, credible. So that's what he was trying to do. So while the witness was on the stand, it was like, so on this day, you was here, right? When this crime happened, they're like, no, I was never there. So the prosecutor, what? And then they asked the question again, on this day you was here, right? No, I was never there. This is where I was at. So now, they're like, hold on. And so now the witness just keep going like, yeah, the Boston police and y'all forced me to make up this story to charge this person with this crime. So the jury heard all of that. So the jury heard them telling the story that I did it, all of this stuff, right? And then while I'm still on the stand, she ends up changing the whole story. So I'm thinking I'm going home. Like, you know, everything, like, you just sit here and lie to people, and then you're telling the truth, and now they're like, all right, so I'm thinking it's over. But the prosecutor and the government, what they have to do and how they do it effectively, what they do is they take, like, negative things. Like, they'll throw gangs out there. Oh, this dude's a gang member. He got tattoos. He got braids. He's associated with this. Nothing that has nothing to do with this case. And they putting it in there. So the jurors is hearing it. So even if I'm innocent, they don't care about that. They're like, we don't want to let this dude on the streets. And he, you know what I'm saying? He lived this type of life. He already been locked up as a trouble youth. He's been in DYS. He's locked up for armed robbery. Now he's here for this. I don't want to let him go on my watch and then he goes potentially hurt somebody and then it's on my conscience, even if he didn't do it. So I ended up getting another hung jury. So I didn't go home.
But
and
you
so,
still hadn't been convicted. How many years?
Nah, I didn't get convicted. So at that time.
How many years was that? Where had you been in prison?
So I got locked in 2007. So that was 3 years. 3 years.
Okay,
So my first trial was in 2009, and then my second trial was in 2010 in March. And so I got a hung jury. So now I got to go to trial again. They're not giving me a bail. So in Massachusetts, like the statute is, every case you get a bail except for murder. The judge can give you a bail, but it's up to the discretion. So it goes to like the facts of the case, and if they feel like you're a flight risk, you have ties to the community. They got all of these things that they have set in place to basically pick and choose who they want to give, you know, liberty to and who they want to deprive of it. So, you know, I didn't get a bail. It was a high profile case. The news is there, Fox 25, everybody's there, the newspapers, the articles, everything on the front of the paper. So then I got to go to trial the third time, so they took off the prosecutor that I had on there. He couldn't get a conviction, so they took their best prosecutor that they had, and they're like, we're gonna use you. And so they take this prosecutor, and they put him in as the DA in my case. And so when I go to trial the third time, my case is tried totally different than the first 2 times. So now they putting stuff that has nothing to do with this case. Like, so the armed robbery case and all that, they bring up the firearm. They show that, like, this ain't the murder weapon, so why are you showing this to the jurors? They showing this to the jurors. They talking about stuff that has nothing to do with the case. Me and my friend get stopped multiple times around my neighborhood by police. You know, they do FIOs, it's called field interrogation observation. Like, so when they stop you, what's your name? Could we see your ID? And they take that in the description. Like, so they showing all of this stuff. Like, oh, you grew up in this area. So my whole defense and my legal defense was, I'm not saying like, you know, I don't come from, you know, a troubled youth or whatever, but I'm saying I didn't do this. So why is this correct? I'm not denying that, you know, I had a check and pass and I grew up in the streets. So why is this coming up? So it's only coming up, so you gotta look at the motive, what's the intention and the agenda?
Circumstantial stuff as well.
Yeah, but why are you bringing it up if it has nothing to do with this case? What is it proving? Is it proving that I killed this person? No, it's not. So
When was this, what year was this?
2010. So this is my last trial, my third trial. So 2010, and so the jurors is hearing it. So you gotta understand when you're dealing with people with cultural difference that haven't grown up like in an urban community and been around and know how the system is. If you've been sheltered and you just think things is a certain way because you just see it on TV or people tell you certain things, you take it and you believe it to be like that. But now, now times is changing as far as like police's credibility is being shot. They gotta wait body cameras. And a lot of things are starting to come out of light. But back then, when I was in trial 2007, ain't nothing they do or say could be questioned. If they say it is facts, like this is what it is, it's gospel. So, long story short, I ended up being found guilty. I get found guilty. I get sentenced to natural life in prison. So I was supposed to die in prison. So I was 22. So I went back to where I was at, maximum security prison. I'm sitting in a cell, one of them cells, and I'm like, damn, I'm never getting out of here. I may never get out of here. I might be caged as an animal and have to live like this and have my living or quality of life reduced to nothing. So I went through that, but at the same time as I was living in prison, you see in there how the guys are being put in situations where there's violence going on. You're being confined in a soul space. Like, you know how all the people sitting, they was eating? That's how you eat, so they call it a chow hall. So they call different units, you go, and it's just like, it's a lot going on, like in prison, like it's a lot of negativity, and like how they said, like it's a dark place. Like imagine going to a place to where you're exiled from society, and the only people that know you're there, like if you get kidnapped and they take you, like, all right, we're gonna put you on this island, and we only the people that have access to it, we can leave and come, but you can't, you have to stay here, and we control everything that goes on in there. So you're subjected to everything that goes on in there. You can't leave, and then your family don't know what's going on. I get to control when you get on the phone and who you can write a letter to. So you can write a letter, I can read it and rip it up. Nah, that's not getting out. And a lot of times, like a lot of people get like abuse that goes on through their lawyers because they can't deny attorney, client privilege access and stuff like that. But there's a lot of things that go on in prison. Like, so my thing is, a lot of people probably think prisons make society safer. Do you think that?
I mean, like, to a certain extent, yes, but I think a lot of it is unnecessary.
You? So, like, do you think we need prisons? Really think about it, though. Do we really need prisons in America?
Yeah, but not for, like there are times other people loitering, and I'm gonna be like, if a lawyer's loitering, I don't know, you're standing outside.
Always locking you up for loitering?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
maybe, yeah, if you do murder someone, you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be running around.
Definitely.
I like what they said in the documentary about how we need to implement teachers and social workers and people who actually are experienced in that field to try and acclimate people back to going into society. I don't think it should be as cutthroat or the condition, there shouldn't be roaches on the floor or nothing like that.
It's horrible in there, man.
I think it's
Quality
old,
disgusting.
I think it's outdated and
But you have people that sit
Yeah.
in, right? Like that come to work, right? And it's generational. So you might have your dad's dad
Right.
that's been working, and so you're being conditioned to think a certain way when you come in here. So we control you. We're authority. So you gotta look at it like if I'm an authority figure, right? Because it's all about training, how you're being taught. Like, yeah, these guys is dangerous. They're gonna try to manipulate you. They're gonna try to do this. You gotta watch out, and you're being already programmed negatively. So one, I'm already sentenced for a crime I didn't do, and then I'm being taken away from my family, and then I have to die again. You got a bunch of miserable men in here, right? That just try to prey on the weak. It's a negative environment. You could feel like if you ever get a tour to go in jail, you just feel how negative it is. So you already have that. Like, I'm already being punished. So when I come in here and you're coming to work, you just got a job to do just to make sure you maintain safety and control. And then I'm not trying to break out of prison. I'm not trying to harm a staff or another prison. But they go overboard. They come up with all these rules. Hey, you can't have your hands in part. Hey, you can't be on the top tier. Hey, you can't be talking this way. Oh, you gotta be over here. There's just so many things to try to control you and disrupt to remind you. Like, I control you. It's like now, we used to get mail, right? And regular, you write a letter to somebody in jail, it comes in the mail, and you get it. But now you don't do that no more. They photocopy, so you can't even get an actual letter. So if I'm never gonna see the streets again, and I got a girlfriend, I got my mother, she writing me something, and you know how they kiss it or whatever, they put stickers on it. You can't get none of that. Oh, there might be drugs on there. So they come up with these policies to dehumanize you that don't make no sense. What does lipstick being on a picture or a sticker being on a picture have anything to do with drugs or being a threat to security? But they come up with these tactics to kind of just reduce a prisoners living. So
Yeah, you talked a little bit, Ryan, about kind of the the way to humanize or rehabilitate as well, and this idea of dehumanizing, you mentioned,
Yeah,
it
so-
like that, this sense of like, touch with the outside world, some kind of being in touch with people. Did you feel like, after some years that you felt like really out of touch with the outside world?
Yeah, so, when you first get locked up in the beginning, you're young, you got a lot of family support. I come from a big family, so I had a lot of support. I had friends and stuff like that. But once, after 3 years, people start, disappearing. Everybody living their lives. So then it's just like my mother, my grandmother, a couple cousins, brother, that I'm constantly in contact with, girlfriend and stuff like that. Then when I got life in prison, like, oh, you're gonna die in jail. We're never gonna see you again. Only time we're gonna see you is on the phone or if we get a ride. So I'm from Boston, so they get a ride from Boston all the way to Walpole, Mass. I don't know if any of y'all ever been to Mass, like Boston. Like it's crazy. So it's a long commute. So people ain't trying to come. Then they gotta get pat searched, and then you feel like a criminal. It just makes you don't want to come there. Like the way they have it designed, so they design it like that. So and like the art of war, they teach you like an isolated victim is a vulnerable victim. Like if you can isolate a person, you can make them weak and dependent, and you can break them. So that's what they're designed to isolate you, to make society forget about you, make people don't want to deal with you. So I had Molly, she used to send me books. I'd be writing, I like to write, and she used to send me different books. And she's a professor, so she used to send it straight from UNH. It got the little stamp on it and everything. But, oh, you can't get that. Why can't I get it? It's coming from university. Oh, it might be drugs in it. She got to order it specific vendors. So they have vendors you got to order from like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or it got to come from a business, because if you know this person, she could be putting drugs in there for you. But they searching. If you find anything in there, you're gonna hold me accountable for. This is what you got the hold for and everything, but they don't want nobody educating themselves. They give you limited resources to educate yourself. So I got my GED fast. So after that, I didn't have no higher sense of education. So I read every book. I used to order books and stuff like that. So I had to teach myself. So I'm around a bunch of negative people that don't want to learn, that want to get high, want to get, drunk, want to talk about what's going on. Negativity, like people that's like, staying in prison. So for me, mentally, to survive in there all the years, I had to take my mind out of where I was living. Because if I lived in there, I would have killed myself. Because it's just harsh conditions. It's like you don't have love around you, and it's just violence and just anger.
What was that like for you, at the time, knowing that, because in your head, you weren't getting out, right? So, how difficult is that to, keep that sense of, composure and, you're on this track while everyone's on this track, but at the end of the day, does that weigh on you, or do you think, can I use these skills somewhat, later on?
Yeah, so, my thing, for me, education was like a form of empowerment for me. They gave me a sense of purpose. It felt like if I could learn these things and I could add value, not only to my life, but other people's lives that come in. And, being in jail, when you speak to people, you start telling your story, just talking about life, and just different things. I like to read. I've always been like a bookworm, right? And we start teaching people things. It's in jail, you ain't got nothing but time. So I can learn anything I want to learn. I can learn how to be a master salesman. I can learn how to do whatever. I done taught myself so many things in there because, in real life, you have to take responsibility. You got to pay a phone bill. You got to pay for a car. You got a car. You got to work. You got to do so many things. You got goals you're trying to do. So you don't really have that much time to sit down and really have an introspection on yourself. Reflection, so I had that time. And at the same time, I knew I was going to get out, because I was studying my case and I was kind of inclined, because I read. So it's like I'm being inquisitive. I'm not just letting my lawyer. A lot of people, when they get locked up for a case, they just let their lawyers do everything. And then you got lawyers that don't give a fuck about you. They get money off you regardless if you go home or not. So you're gonna take the initiative to try to fight for your freedom, or you're just gonna stay here. So some people, the majority of prisoners, when they get locked up for a crime, they get caught up in what's going on around them. So prison is a strong, toxic environment. So when you're in prison, the moment is strong, cause it's here, we can leave. You don't like this person or something, you can leave. There, you can't leave. Only place you can go to your cell, and you can hear a person screaming, things going on, CO slamming the door. Imagine every day a CO walk by you, slamming your door, tapping your door every day. You're reading, right? You're trying to sleep, and he's rattling your door. After a while, this shit get tiring. So little games they play to get in your head. So it's you got to deal with that. You got to find a way to keep your emotions in check, because if you do something, if you could get said fuck you or whatever, there's consequences to that. All right, we're taking your phone purchase. Now you can't call your family. All right, we're taking this from you. Now you can't get a visit. Oh, now you're on Lawson Canteen, so now you gotta eat the food. So the food is a whole nother topic. The food that they give you, oh man, it's disgusting.
Yeah, that's another part of the film that talks about the system of the bad kind of environment and things like that. So you mean this is really your mental health is a huge priority, right? And you can't even express your emotions, because if you do, you can be punished.
Yeah, and not only that, it's a predatory environment too in a lot of sense. If I'm showing vulnerability, that I'm talking about how this place affects me, you're weak. Oh yeah, so how people pick on people, you start bullying. So you got to keep that shit in check. If you got any type of feelings like that, you gotta bring that in the cell when the doors is closed, and you gotta deal with that somehow, you know? So, but dealing with that with your peers, they have a field day with it. So you gotta master that. So for me, how I survive, like I have my faith in God, like just believing in God and just reading and knowing and get out, just studying my case, and at the same time I had armor around me. Like, so what I mean by armor, I mean I had to protect myself, so I couldn't really show my real self, like who I really was. I had to, you get what I'm saying? You gotta put layers around. You can't let people see how you really feel inside. Like if you get a bad phone call, if your family ain't picking up. So I lost 5 family members since when I was in jail. I lost both of my grandmothers. My grandmother raised me, my great grandmother, then my grandmother, then I lost 3 of my cousins to gang violence. I didn't get to go to none of the funerals, so I had to deal with all of that, you know? So it was just a lot. You gotta deal with a lot. So you gotta find a way to hold on, and then you got guards messing with you. And I'm kind of an outspoken person. Like if I feel like somebody's, you know, targeting me or doing something that goes beyond the scope of their job, then I'm challenging them. So I'm the type of person, like I'll read your policies and see what the guidelines and what you can do and what you can't do, and then when you start going outside of that, because that's what they do, and then you know I start challenging them. So they have like processes where you can file a grievance, but everything is like they work together. So like if you're a CO, she's the grievance coordinator, they're all staff, so they're all together. So if I'm making a complaint, right, about you to her, I'm writing it in, she did this to me, and you know when the policy says you can't do that, check the camera at this date and time. You're looking at it, you'll look at the camera, yeah, denied. And then you'll probably pull her aside if she keep getting reports like, yeah, you can't keep doing that, man. You know, you gotta kind of lessen the heat. Like, and some people didn't have access to other people in the outside world to have calling, inquiring lawyers and demanding video footage and stuff like that. I had that because I'm not an advocate for myself, and I just know how to build relationships. So they kind of was like a little hesitant on how they mess with me. But I got assaulted by COs and stuff like that. I've been through a lot in there, but it's just a different world in there. So it's hard to survive in there, but I knew I was gonna get out because I was working on my case. I had luckily got a good lawyer that actually believed in my innocence and was just a good dude, man. Like, you know, we've been through a lot. Like I talked to him today, like when I got out, like he took me shopping. Like it's showing me, like, cause I had to go to a hotel when I got out. Like, you know, I had all the shelter when I went in. I had a
Was there to
grandmother.
talk about what happened when you got out?
Yeah, so you know, I had a grandmother who loved me. I was like my mom's and everything. She's gone. I don't got that no more. So now that I'm getting out, I'm not going home to a place that I could call home. Now I gotta figure out where I'm gonna be living. So as I'm working on my case and trying to get out of jail, and I know I'm gonna eventually get out. I don't know if it's gonna be 30 years down the line, 20, whatever. But I know eventually I'm gonna get out because I had 3 trials, right? So, and 2 was hung juries, and then, oh, I forgot to mention too, like when I went to trial the second time, and then the witness did all that recanting and saying that the police made him say that, and the prosecutor, they ended up charging the witness with perjury. So perjury holds up to whatever the case that you commit perjury on. So when you perjure on a murder case, you can get life in prison. So they charge it with perjury and stuff like that. But when you study case law, there's nowhere in Massachusetts or anywhere in the world where there's a case like mine, where a perjured witness admitted on the stand, a lying on the stand, lying under oath. You know, you get on the stand, I swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth, and admitted to and pled guilty to it, yet you still allow this person to testify to find a person guilty. So we know this person's already a liar, so we can't even use this person's word no more to establish that this person committed the crime, but being that they only got this witness, without this witness, I can't even get charged. And so, you know, they broke all type of rules and stuff like that, and they charged me, and they used the witness still, and then I ended up being found guilty. So I got found guilty, and then, you know, as my way out as a fight, and then we ended up finding like illegal evidence and stuff like that, and then I overturned my case, and then I went to the county jail, and I know I was about to get out. Like I was supposed to go to trial, and then like a month before I was about to go to trial, they came with like a resolution, like, listen, we don't want to go to trial, we want to resolve it. So me, I already went to trial 3 times. I already went to trial. I see how the court system is. It's one-sided, so the judge is supposed to be neutral, supposed to be a referee, but the judge is like a DA, because remember, the burden is on the DA to prove whether you're innocent or not. So I don't have to say nothing. I can just sit there, you can charge me with a crime, but you have to prove that I did it. You gotta use evidence through your witnesses, whether it's physical DNA, and prove that I committed the crime. So I don't have to do nothing. So the burden's on them. So being that the judge knows that, and know like murder is the hardest case to prove, they help them. And being that my case was tenuous, they really didn't have no evidence like that. They used to allow illegal stuff that didn't have nothing to do with the case. Oh, we gotta check it past. Let's bring this up. Oh, let's bring up, he got in a fist fight when he was 12 years old. What does this have to do with this case? It don't have nothing to do with the case. But the jury said, oh, this is a violent kid. Man, he's getting in a fight. Everybody getting in a fight. I'm pretty sure you got in a fight. Everybody getting fights, like, you know, but they the way you frame it, how you picture it and you write it, like, yeah, this guy, he does this. Like, if I keep saying something over and over, if I keep showing you something a certain way, it's gonna make you look at it a certain way, so.
And it was a very high profile
You
case
can
in
say
Boston, yeah.
Just like kind of
bouncing off of that, how do you feel about like juries in general? Because I think it's kind of crazy that a group of strangers who can have like personal bias, can like decide your fate. So like, and people are like, well, it's important to have a jury of your peers, but I think like a bunch of people who know nothing about you, who know nothing about your case and are just hearing that, like can decide you going for, life. So how do you feel about juries?
Isn't that how you got released as well? I mean,
No,
because
no, no,
because
jury.
the jury member.
Yeah, well, yeah, they over.
Bias.
Yeah, when the jury, there was a lot of things. Like, there was a lot of holes in my case, but so as far as like that, I agree with you. Like, it's difficult. So it's like, if I'm black, I grew up in an urban community. Like, and then I got white girls that never grew up in my area, white dudes, older guys, and stuff like that, and have a particular view, and they decided my fate. How do I get a fair trial? They don't know nothing about what goes on in the inner city. They don't know about the harassment of what goes on. And a lot of people are like naive to that. Like think that shit really don't happen. Like I could be just hanging out in the corner. Like you could be hanging out with your girl and y'all just hanging out doing nothing. I could be doing the same thing and jump out, hey, put your hands up. So I serve you, what you got on you? But you ain't do nothing. So, you have like jurors that are not your peers and don't come where you come from, deciding your fate. Then you got the judge helping the DA. It's difficult. That's why a lot of people cop out, take plea deals. And then if for a juror in my peer kind of be like, some of them might have a criminal record or grew up in the area but don't have a criminal record. And the jurors, the DA, so they call peremptory challenges. So like if I'm going to trial and you're a DA, she's my lawyer, we each get 16. So there's 32 challenges where you don't have to say why you don't want this person as a juror. So you can look at a person and ask you questions, you fill it out, where'd you work, where you grow up, you got any family that ever been involved with the law, what's your job, X, Y, and Z, any law enforcement in your family. These are the type of things that kind of give an indication of how a person thinks and then kind of their frame on the world. And then we can look at that and read it, you come up and be like, nah, we don't want this person. Or the DA can do the same thing. Like, yeah, my father was in jail when I was 5 years old, yeah, we want him because he's gonna understand. Nah, he challenged. And then they don't have to explain why. So, but that's how I ended up flipping my case and getting out, because that was one of the things. Because they was doing that, like with jurors that was coming up, that was my peers, they kept challenging them. And so they got this thing called Batson versus Stores. It's a case, it's like a federal case. And it's basically like blacks that don't protect their class. Like being like, so when you're picking jurors, like if they do a jury pool, right, and it's 90 people, how many of them are black? 10 of them, 15 might be black. Then how many of them are gonna be actually eligible? Like when you're looking at their questionnaire, when they fill it out, how many got criminal records? And then you got the DA that can challenge just because he want to challenge because he don't like me, might be more sympathetic to my defense. So at the end of the day, you might be left with like 3-4 jurors that are black. You know what I'm saying? Then how many of them have a criminal record? So they came up with a law for that. Like you can't just be challenging jurors. If they don't have no open case and they're saying they're gonna be fair and impartial, you gotta let them sit on the jury. So they kept challenging, and then the DA was doing it, and the judge was like, nah, he ain't violating his rights. And then I ended up proving it, my lawyer ended up proving how they violated my rights. Just because I got 5 black people on the jury, that doesn't mean nothing. Because when you look at the whole totality of the pool, how many are actually being called as black? So that was just like a loophole.
That's a good question. More questions?
Was, so the people on your jury, were they coming from Massachusetts?
Yeah, now they come from Massachusetts, so they basically pick like, so the area, so they got counties, so they got like Suffolk County, so I'm from Suffolk County, so that's like near the TD Bank, North Garden, no, it's Celtics, so that's like that area, so you got like Revere, Chelsea, Boston, I think South Boston, those are the 4, that's Suffolk County, and then like if you go to like New Bedford, Fall River, Taunton, I think that's Bristol, like there's different counties, so Suffolk County, like is fortunately for my county, like it's kind of the best as far as like jury pool, because like a lot of people, like Boston is diverse, it's a lot of like mixed people in there, so you got blacks, you got Spanish, so you're gonna get people that's kind of like more of a chance that's like kind of just used to seeing things or being around things that's actually happening, like rather than just seeing it on TV, they're gonna know somebody that might have a friend, like you ever heard of that thing called 6 Degrees of Separation? So like that, like you might know a friend that know a friend, oh my friend, cousin, she got shot or whatever. So it's kind of like you become like numb to it. So it's like an everyday thing, like, but if you're dealing with somebody from the suburbs and they never had nothing like that happen, so when they hear that happen, it just shakes their whole world. Like, oh my God, like this happened, like what? And then they just making, decisions off emotions.
Do you think the demographics of the jury in the first and second and third trial had an impact on the
Yeah, definitely. It had an impact, but I feel like what had the most impact was the judge. With the judge allowed to come in things that wasn't relevant, that didn't have nothing to do with the case. So the judge is the deciding factor to determine if you get a fair trial or not. Because the judge determines what comes in and what doesn't come in. And so if you're allowing, so they were saying that, all right, the guy that got killed, he was an innocent kid, he was this great kid. The way they made it, like he was the best thing since sliced bread. Like he was going to college, he was delivering meals on wheels, he was an innocent kid at the wrong place at the wrong time. But yet, when he got killed, he had drugs on him. But we can't bring that up. We bring that up. Oh, well, I'm gonna bring this up. Oh, we're gonna bring up, you got a fight in jail and you got a gang tattoo. So do you wanna open that door? So they got a thing called limited defense. So when they do that, they're limited the defense's case. Like if I can't talk about, like we gotta tell the whole picture because there's many sides to it. So you're just making it seem like nobody can have the motive to want to kill this person. Like he don't have no enemies. Like, oh, you get what I'm saying? So the jurors only seen it from one side. And then when they like doing stuff like that, they'll call a sidebar. Then they'll exclude the jurors. And then that's when all the stuff happens. Like, yeah, we're gonna allow this. We're not gonna allow this. And the jurors don't see that. So the jurors should, I believe, like the jurors should be there the whole time, be able to hear everything that's going on. Because what's done in the dark, that's when the dirty stuff start happening. Because if people like, all right, y'all all the jurors, I'm on trial. She's the DA. This is my lawyer. The judge is sitting over there. And there's a dispute about something, like, yeah, we want to let this in, and then she's like, nah, sidebar, that's not coming in. What is that coming in for? It has nothing to do with this case. Well, the judge like, all right, let's call a sidebar, excuse the jurors, to play some music or whatever so you can't hear. They're like, we gotta excuse the jurors. If it's gonna be longer than like a minute or two, they're like, yeah, y'all gotta leave. So when y'all leave, they turn the music off, and then they start talking about it. Like, yeah, under this case, we want this to come in, and this is why it should come in, this is because it proves this theory, and X, Y, and Z. And the judge, my lawyer to go, and then they'll ultimately decide. Now remember, the burden's on the DA. My lawyer don't gotta do nothing. He could just sit there and be quiet, but he has to prove I did it. And so,
Oh, sorry, we only have like 8 minutes, so I was just wondering if you could talk about post-incarceration a little bit.
so,
Like,
you know.
what was it like for you? I know you called me, but I think it'd be really important for my students to hear kind of like those first few days and then now, like what are some of the things that you felt and then what have been some of the challenges for you?
So for me, remember I've been locked up 16 years, so I went in, when I was out, you know, the phones that was really like the main thing, the trendy topic was Nextel. I don't know if y'all was alive. At that time, the chirps, you know, the two-way chirps and those phones. Y'all remember those? So that was the phones, like, so, and so getting locked up and everything changed. Like when I was out, like, we used to wear baggy clothes, like now everything's fitted. Like you gotta wear form-fitting clothes, showing off your body. Everything's different technology, everything's on apps. You can run your money through your phone, Google Maps, you can find places. So when I got out, like I was just overwhelmed. Like I'm still overwhelmed. I feel like a baby out here, like just learning everything, like having to learn how to work everything with the phone. Like I'm kind of like a little tech savvy, because you know you got tablets in there and I kind of just pick up on things fast. But things is just different, like how you socialize with people. Like before, like when you interested in a female, you talk, how you doing? You go to now, it's just everything social media. Nah, you can't get my number. You can take it social media. Just everything's different. Like it's just, so I have to learn this and I have to be patient with myself, and I just gotta keep an open mind. So it's just different out here, the whole world. So I'm afraid to get on a train right now. Like they be telling me, oh, if you want to get over here, you get on the bus. Like it's just so much for me to take in. So it's just I'm still adjusting. I'm trying to get my life together. So.
I know too. Also, it felt like time is different inside than it is outside, right? In terms
Everything's
of like
moving fast. Like everything out here is unpredictable. So like in jail, you kind of predict your day, like who you're gonna see, who you're gonna. There's a little bit of unpredictability, but it's a controlled environment. The world is uncontrolled. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
You know, a plane could fly by and crash, or you know, whatever. The dramatic can happen. But in jail, like everything is just like in a small space, like this table. You can kind of predict what's gonna happen in this table, right? Like,
kind of like when you've been sick for a long time and you get out and you have to make all these decisions and things like that. Do you find them, coming out of prison and having to kind of like find housing and find a job and,
that's
and then
difficult.
you called me when you got your license to drive and things. I mean, these are small victories but also challenges, right?
Yeah, because you need those things to function out here. I don't know if you heard of like Abraham Maslow, the psychologist, the hierarchy of needs. You heard of that? So you need that. Like the main thing you need at the bottom is, you need food, clothing, and shelter. If you ain't got that, how you gonna be stable out here? You can't even reach the top of the pyramid, which is self-actualization, right? Reaching the highest point that I wanna be a social worker, I wanna be a journalist. You can't even get there. Cause you gotta make sure you got all of these things, so me getting out, remember, I don't have no grandmother or nothing like that, I don't have no safety nets no more, so it's all on me, if I'm not doing nothing, then I'm gonna be on the streets. So, you know, just having that, like, it's on my mind and just having to make it work.
What's your goal moving forward? Like, what are you trying to achieve right now?
So you know, I write books, so one of the things I do is I write books. I wanna go to school here, I already enrolled to go to school here, so they wrote 2 letters of recommendation for me to go here, so I might be here, and, when did it start? August, September?
Yeah.
So, we'll see what happens, I'm still waiting. So I wanna go to school for journalism and justice studies, like, I'm a writer, so, cause I'll be writing articles, like, I wrote an article, and she can share it with y'all if y'all wanna read it. It's called The Stark Reality of Prison. I'm gonna put it on my website, that's my website too, you can
Yeah.
subscribe to it, see, like, I do magic too, you know David Blaine? So that's like my idol, man, one of the dudes I look up to, I be doing magic, I learned that in jail, so that's like one thing I wanna incorporate, like magic, I have my own clothing line I'm gonna drop. So I got a lot of things I wanna do, you know, I wanna do like speaking engagement, kinda create awareness on what's going on, and just kinda shift the narrative, like what people need to be really focusing on, cause crimes is being committed right now inside prison by people that's in there, the police, like, you get what I'm saying, the people that's locked up,
So
so.
you wanna write about the system
I already
itself?
did,
I
so
mean,
I got
know
the
that you
book
are.
coming out, so the Diary of a Prison is about to come out, and it's kinda just talking about that, like my experience, what I seen, what I went through firsthand, and just that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, I've already read some excerpts, and if you go to his website, you can read about, like, you know, the different roles that
See
people
the
take
book
on in
cover?
prison.
I don't know, my phone, I can show y'all the book cover, though, you can see it really quick.
I was gonna ask you as well, you know, the last few minutes, do you find it, it was important for you to separate out from the people you knew as well, like?
What, in jail or?
Outside, like,
Yeah, hell yeah, you
come
got
back-
it, man, cause it's like, if you're thinking different, you can't go back to what
Right,
you used to be,
right.
cause it's like, they're gonna pull you back, it's like, I can't hang around an alcoholic and think I'm gonna
Right,
maintain my
right, right.
sobriety, so if I'm thinking about being sober and doing this thing, I can't go back to what I'm used to, and a lot of people, and that's why people go back to jail because of, safety nets, cause they go back to what they're
Yeah.
comfortable doing, so. I
And
do that.
also about like, you got a job, you got a new job?
I'm waiting. As of right now, I do got a job doing Amazon delivery. I'm just waiting for them to call. I had to do the drug screening, so once that's clear, then I'll be starting. So that's the book right here. That's my 4th book right here. I'm gonna go and pass it around. So that's the 4th one. Diary of a Prisoner. I just had the book cover made yesterday.
You've only been out for 2 months, right?
Yeah, like 70 days.
That's amazing, you've done so much already, you know?
Yeah.
Do we have more questions or comments or thoughts? Yeah, so.
How are you feeling about coming to school? You're coming to school here? in the
I'm
fall.
trying, so I don't know what the admission's gonna do. Like, I know, like, yeah, I got the tour here like 3-4 weeks ago, and I was just like, damn, the life diversity. It's like, I'm understanding now, like, it's all done. I go to jail, I'm 16 years and older, you know, it's just like, you know, none of my peers is here, you know, but I feel like I'm used to that though, like, with being in jail, and just my story, just growing up, I always felt like the outside of the story. It's not like I'll be uncomfortable. Then if I feel like I need to talk to someone, I always got them two to talk to, you know, they've been, you know, talking to me since I've been incarcerated, so whatever. I've been through worse. So it's not the end of the world. I'll be able to make it.
Any other thoughts? Yeah, please.
So you said you listen to the radio. How hard is it? Do you hear like news? Like, were you
Yeah,
hearing
you
what
get the
happened
TV and all that.
outside?
You get the TV.
Was that really hard to like hear what was going on the outside?
For me, they kind of motivated me, to be honest. Everybody got their
Yeah.
own coping mechanism and how they push forward to get through dark times. Like some people find religion, some people work out, some people overindulge in drugs or gossip or whatever. No, I like that kind of just being informed. They kind of stay in tune with times.
Yeah. More thoughts or comments? Yeah.
So you got out this year, correct?
2 months ago.
2017.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when the whole Black Lives Matter movement happened, did you ever notice any changes in prison?
Prison?
Like where they were trying to like save face and like maybe try and look like they were, you know, treating you guys better than they were?
Only time they make it seem like they're treating us better is when lawyers and the media is coming through, or somebody of some type of prominence is coming in and looking, then they act like they're professional. But once they leave, you know, it's like being on a date, the first date, like everybody's on their best behavior. And after like the 8th date, you start to see how this person really is. Like, damn, this person's always nagging and, you know, demanding. You get this really, everything just goes out the window. So it's all a facade, man.
One thing I would encourage too, if you're interested in knowing more about insights in prison, things like that, is to write to prisoners as well. There's a site I can give you in terms of prison writings that different incarcerated people do, but also, you know, there are people who are looking for pen pals and reaching out to sort of talk a little bit about it. And I think those who've already published work already might be a good key, but you know, if you're interested in knowing more about it too. But also Antoine's site in emailing you as well, did you put your email on there? Oh, yeah, great.
It's on there.
Yeah, any last questions or thoughts or comments? Molly, do you wanna say anything at all, or?
Your class had good questions. I love that to hear classes talking. And I mean, the other thing that was a wild experience was hearing from Antoine during COVID and how that was, which is a whole nother story where they were really forgotten, I think, was what you described.
Yeah, COVID was difficult. I know
Yeah.
it came out 10 minutes out your cell. And then like, you ain't trying to get sick. Nobody trying to get sick. And you gotta understand like, the level of care in jail is subpar. It's at the bottom. Like when it comes to medical care, like everything's Motrin and Tylenol. Hey, I got this headache, Motrin. I got this right, hey, Motrin. Like, it's crazy in there.
Need a new kidney, Motrin.
Yeah, Motrin.
People are dying, man. I done seen so many people die in jail and so many traumatic experiences in there.
Do you have access to vaccines?
Yeah, we got the vaccine and stuff like that. They came with it. They eventually came with it. Yeah. But before I even got the vaccine, everybody caught COVID. Like I was trying not to get it. Everybody was getting it. Like I can't taste or smell. And I ain't there. I'm like, damn, I got a bang ass headache. I'm like, so I rolled my eyes like, oh man. I'm like, I think I got COVID. And then I'm telling my mental health worker, she's like running the institution. I'm like, I don't even want to tell you, like, 'cause when you get COVID, they'll take you from your unit and they try to put you in an isolated unit where everybody's sick. But everybody on the unit's already sick. So I'm not trying to have my room moved and you're already comfortable being where you're at. And then they move you somewhere else with none of your property. Man, I'm not. So I told her, she's like, I'm not gonna move you. So,
Oh my
it
gosh.
was
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, I was also thinking too, as a final, I know some of you have to go to class, but obviously if you want to follow up with Antoine, but for your third projects too, if any of you are interested in maybe doing something with Antoine or something bigger about the prison system as your final project, let me know and, you know, we can talk about that too, okay? But anyway, let's thank Antoine for coming. Yeah. You being here, Antoine, amazing insights, and thank you for sharing.
Hopefully I learned something, man. I just keep an open mind. It's about, you know, a lot of times like when we deal with people like to cast judgment or think a certain way about a certain person. Like, but like everybody got a story. Nobody knows what makes that person who they are. So we all go through things that make us who we are. So you might have a girl who's shy and quiet and standoffish. She might have been through some shit. You know, so you gotta take the time to get to know somebody before you cast judgment.
That's
Because
good
everybody
advice,
got a
yeah.
story.
That's good advice, particularly too with my students, you know, when they're interviewing or meeting new people as well, like, you know, they can gain so many insights from really listening to people, so.
I'm gonna show y'all something for y'all though, real quick. I
Oh.
wanna be a great volunteer. Anybody?
Volunteer.
No, it'll do.
Yay.
Anyway, if you have to go to class, you can go to class, no one will take offense if you have to go to class, but I don't know.
Hey, so look, right?
Okay.
I want you to
I
get a
love
marker.
I love a good card trick.
You got a marker? Somebody got a marker? Because I want to show y'all something. You want to use that? Is that a good